a brave 17-year-old girl, seeking funds to treat her grandfather's illness, was imprisoned naked in a dog cage by a sponsor. Shockingly, the sponsor even moved the cage near a playground slide for fresh air. What seemed like a straightforward case of unlawful imprisonment, an assault soon unraveled into a disturbing battle of desires, and an online post surfaced, suggesting that this 17-year-old might not be the only victim. On February 28, 2013, a resident of Shenzhen's Longgang district, Ms. Li, was on her way to pick up her daughter from school. She noticed a disheveled figure in the distance. The figure, however, was a young woman, wearing only a black down jacket, barefoot, filthy, and reeking of sweat. Her wild appearance made Ms. Li think she was an escaped psychiatric patient. But as Ms. Li tried to avoid her, the girl grabbed her sleeve, sobbing and begging for help. "Please call the police. I've been illegally imprisoned." Upon closer inspection, Ms. Li saw shackles on the girl's wrists and ankles, along with bruises and scars. She immediately dialed the police and took the girl to a nearby security booth. In the booth, the girl was frantic, her body trembling uncontrollably. Her eyes darted nervously at every passerby, and when certain men walked by, she instinctively tried to hide under the table. Seeing this, the guard and Ms. Li could only console her repeatedly, assuring her, "Don't be afraid, the police are on their way." When officers arrived, the girl clutched at their sleeves desperately, as if terrified someone might drag her away. To locate the imprisonment site, the police had no choice but to bring the girl along. During the way, she remained strangely compliant, just locked in a desperate grip on the female officer's sleeve, as if letting go would plunge her back into darkness. The police learned that she was Han Wenwen, 17 years old, from Hunan. Her grandfather's illness demanded a small fortune, so she poured her plea onto the internet. There was a man named Chen said he could help. Then he transferred her nearly 1,000 yuan. On February 20th, Mr. Chen claimed his bank card had been frozen and invited Han Wenwen to Shenzhen to collect the cash in person. Touched by his apparent sincerity, Han arrived, only to discover the monster beneath his charitable mask. He locked her in a dog cage, forcing her into degrading sadistic games against her will. She endured until today, when she finally broke free from this nightmare. Guided by Han Wenwen, the group arrived in front of a duplex residence. The police first knocked on the door, but received no response from within. They chose to breach the entrance. Upon entering, officers observed blackout curtains drawn tightly, completely blocking all natural light. Descending the stairs, they discovered a basement. The basement contained a glass window and a metal cage measuring approximately 1 cubic meter. Inside the cage lay a quilt and some personal belongings. At the sight of the cage, Han Wenwen began trembling uncontrollably. It was evident this cage had been her prison. The police immediately contacted the property owner. The owner stated the property had been rented out to a man named Chen Qian 1 year ago. Officers then attempted to contact Chen Qian, but he had seemingly vanished into thin air. All attempts to reach him failed. Years of investigative instinct told police Chen Qian was the key to the imprisonment case. After securing Han Wenwen's safety, police began conducting door-to-door inquiries in the neighborhood, while launching a citywide manhunt for Chen Qian. Through their investigation, many neighbors described the suspect's house as highly unusual. Its curtains remained drawn every day, with no lights ever turned on at night. But there was a man occasionally seen entering and exiting. The neighbors didn't think too much. They thought there might be something happened to him.
但是我以为是人家打架哈，不是打架哦。如果他老是长时间叫，你可能觉得有问题了，是吧？偶尔叫一声，他把蒙起来了，你就搞不清了。内裤是这里的，反正黑色的，反正一套都是黑色的，反正好像。
脚上带了什么东西？
带脚镣啊。
脚镣是吧？
多大的、多长的那种脚镣啊？
长的这么长的，这两个脚把它那个。
One resident, Mr. Lin, provided crucial testimony a few nights earlier while returning home intoxicated. He saw a large cage draped with cloth near the playground. The big cage appeared to contain something moving inside. In his drunken haze, Lin thought he glimpsed a naked woman, but within moments the cage's owner noticed him and hastily wheeled it back inside. Left with no choice, Lin departed. He later rationalized the family's odd, always keeping curtains closed, but you can sometimes hear a dog barking. They probably just did it to muffle the noise. As for the naked woman in the cage, must have been the alcohol playing tricks, likely just a large, human-toned dog. Satisfied with this explanation, he dismissed his concerns entirely. Meanwhile, the police continued their manhunt for Chen Qian. Unexpectedly, several days passed with no trace of the suspect found. During this time, Han Wenwen appeared to have recovered somewhat from her initial shock. Seizing this opportunity, investigators promptly conducted a formal interview with her. Han Wenwen was 17 years old, from a poor family. She had been raised by her grandfather since childhood. Due to financial difficulties, she dropped out of high school. In January 2013, her grandfather suddenly fell seriously ill. Faced with 20,000 renminbi in surgical fees, a crushing sum, Han found herself completely overwhelmed. Desperate to save her grandfather, she turned to online forums to appeal for help from kind strangers. Her plea quickly drew a response from Chen Qian. Chen began grooming her with sympathy, while gradually transferring 1,000 renminbi to her account. Then he claimed his bank card was frozen, and persuaded her to come to Shenzhen, promising to give her the remaining money in cash. On the evening of February 26, 2013, the naive Han Wenwen boarded a flight from Fujian to Shenzhen. Upon arrival, Chen Qian personally greeted her at the airport and escorted her to his residence at Vanke Fifth Park. It was there that his true intentions finally surfaced. Seizing Han's moment of vulnerability, Chen violently assaulted her. The 17-year-old stood no chance against her fully grown attacker. When she resisted, Chen silenced her with a brutal slap across the face. Terrified into submission, Han had no choice but to comply. Chen then imprisoned her in the dog cage, where he would later subject her to daily sadistic games. During the period of her captivity, Han Wenwen endured unimaginable torment. She was confined inside a dog cage, with her hands and feet shackled and her entire body suspended. Not only that, Chen Qian didn't allow her to wear clothes, forced her to bark like a dog and mercilessly whipped, humiliated her. Over the 2 days, Han Wenwen tried repeatedly to escape, but Chen Qian always caught her. It was as if he was toying with her, a cruel game of cat and mouse. Each time she reached the door, he would suddenly appear. He warned her, "There's nowhere to run. My men are everywhere. If you try to escape again, you'll pay for it." Trapped and desperate, Han Wenwen feigned obedience, bending to Chen Qian's will, while tried to ask for help. But the walls swallowed her screams. No one came. In following days, she found whenever she tried to escape, Chen would appear. On February 28th, Han Wenwen faked to escape again. She wrenched free from the shackles, then wandered cautiously through the basement. But this time, Chen Qian never came. Seizing the moment, she bolted upstairs, grabbed a black jacket and fled into the cold, so frantic she didn't even stop for shoes. As the police reviewed Han Wenwen's statement, a critical question emerged. How had Chen Qian always intercepted her escapes? Did he plant surveillance devices in the house? Investigators launched another search of Chen Qian's home. Sure enough, they uncovered multiple hidden microcameras, explaining why he could always know her escapes, and how he had vanished without a trace after the incident. Upon realizing Han had escaped, he knew his crimes would be exposed. Without hesitation, he fled. Now, he might be out of Shenzhen. The police immediately began scrutinizing transportation records from February 28th, but found no trace of anyone registered under Chen Qian. This led investigators to a chilling conclusion. He had likely fled using a forged identification. With 10 full days having passed since the incident, it was impossible that Chen Qian hadn't slipped up unless he became another man. After extensive data screening, police swiftly identified Chen Qian's fake ID records and flagged them in a nationwide alert. Authorities across Guangdong and neighboring provinces were put on high alert for any trace of him. Then, on March 12, 2013, the breakthrough came. Chen Qian was apprehended inside a hotel in Guiyang, ending his 12-day run from the law. When police interrogated Chen Qian, his first words stunned them. "You don't actually believe that woman is some pitiful victim, do you? She's just a nightclub girl, sold herself for cash. That whole grandfather story? Pure fiction. Her body was her business." In Chen Qian's testimony, he admitted meeting Han Wenwen through her online plea for help. But there was a critical detail at the end of that post: "To save my grandfather, I'll give my virginity to anyone who can help me." The post was signed by Ms. Liu. To prove his version true, Chen Qian urged police to check his phone, where he claimed the original post still existed. As expected, police uncovered private messages between Han Wenwen and Chen Qian on a Fujian-based dating forum under a post titled Seeking Special Game Partner. Chen Qian maintained to investigators Han Wenwen had voluntarily flown to Shenzhen, with him covering all expenses. On the night of the 26th, she initiated intimacy, fulfilling her virginity pledge. This was a consensual transaction, yet he conceded, "I may have crossed lines during the act." Faced with conflicting testimonies, police pulled Han Wenwen's records and uncovered the truth. The 17-year-old had repeatedly used a Ms. Liu ID to post on dating platforms, offering her body for money to save a dying grandfather. When confronted with the evidence, Han Wenwen fell into silence, a tacit admission of guilt. Regardless of Han Wenwen's deception, Chen Qian's crimes were undeniable. The police formally charged him based on solid evidence. But as investigators dug into his background, a more disturbing profile emerged. Records showed that Chen Qian had a prior conviction for threatening another victim just 1 year earlier. The police learned that Chen Qian, aged 44, possessed a deceptively refined appearance. A former international student in Japan, he returned to China and married his current wife, with whom he had a child. Driven by entrepreneurial ambitions, he convinced his wife to let him establish an agency in Shenzhen, ostensibly for their family's future. Thus began their long-term separation. His wife raised their child in Shenyang, while he pursued his business ventures alone in Shenzhen. However, after accumulating some savings, Chen Qian could no longer restrain his dark desires. Fascinated by the special game thing, he bought handcuffs, ropes, and chains in large quantities, then began inviting women who shared his fetishes to his home. Starting in 2012, Chen Qian installed multiple hidden cameras throughout his home, so that he could know what happened whenever. The situation turned violent in March 2012, when he assaulted a woman shortly after meeting her. When she reported the crime, Chen Qian faced only 15 days of administrative detention. Chen Qian was deeply resentful about the verdict. This was a consensual transaction. Why am I the only one being punished? Furious after serving his 15-day detention, he sued the Longgang police in Shenzhen Intermediate Court, accusing them of wrongful arrest and demanding compensation. Notably, the trial opened on February 26, 2013. That very afternoon, after leaving court, Chen Qian went straight to the airport to pick up Han Wenwen. For Han Wenwen, Chen Qian had no intention of letting her go easily. He wanted to try something more special. So he custom-ordered a metal cage online in advance and imprisoned Han Wenwen inside. While working, Chen Qian would occasionally check the surveillance feed to watch Han Wenwen's panicked expressions. Then, just as she was about to escape, he would suddenly appear. On February 28th, due to work matters, Chen Qian couldn't spare much attention to monitor Han Wenwen. This gave Han Wenwen the opportunity to escape. Seeing that she had fled, Chen Qian knew his crimes would be exposed. He hurried back home, took out a pre-prepared fake ID and a large bag of cash, and boarded public transport to Guangxi. At the same time, Chen Qian kept an eye on the situation at home. Realizing the police might have noticed his escape to another province, he bought a small car in Guangxi and drove it to a hotel in Guiyang. What Chen Qian didn't expect was that the police were faster than him. Just as he arrived at the Guiyang hotel, the Longgang police had already uncovered all his fake identities and circulated the information nationwide. It wasn't long before he was apprehended by the Guiyang police. Although Chen Qian refused to admit guilt, claiming it was just a transaction, the evidence against him was overwhelming. On January 27, 2014, the Longgang District People's Court of Shenzhen handed down the first instance verdict for the criminal assault case at Wang Fifth Garden in Banqian. The defendant, Chen Qian, was convicted of rape, forcible indecency against women, illegal confinement, and credit card fraud. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison and fined 20,000 renminbi. As for Han Wenwen, the police did not disclose whether she had a seriously ill grandfather to care for. However, it was confirmed that Han Wenwen had fraudulently used someone else's identity. Because she was under 18, the police imposed an administrative detention of 15 days, but did not enforce it, hoping this would serve as a warning to the misguided girl. This dog cage confinement case thus came to an end. However, some observant netizens noticed that this might not be the first confinement incident at Wang Fifth Garden. Rewinding to 8:33 a.m. on March 7, 2013, A netizen posted in the homeowners group and online forums about a naked woman confined in a dog cage near the small slide in Phase 1. At the time, the police were still conducting a sweeping manhunt for Chen Qian. The post sparked heated discussions, with many expressing concerns about the safety of the neighborhood. Some homeowners mentioned that the male resident of that house often brought multiple women home. Yet the most popular comment on the post was, "This seems similar to the incident in 2012, it's just that this woman was lucky. She actually managed to escape." What exactly was this about? It turned out that as early as June 10, 2012, a netizen had posted about possible illegal confinement at Wank Fifth Garden. The netizen claimed a friend met a man she knew online, but as soon as they met, she was forced into House D102 in Qianzhai. After being taken to the basement, the man restrained her with chains and handcuffs. For several days, she was forced to sleep naked on her knees. Not only that, she was only allowed one meal a day. To prevent her from calling for help, the man gagged her and threatened that if she tried to escape, he would take her to an even more terrifying place. For days, she lived like a dog. She didn't dare resist or call the police. After a few days, she was released, but ordered by the man to work as a prostitute. If she refused, she would be severely beaten. Helpless, she agreed. Even now, she hasn't escaped his control. And because she knew other girls were still imprisoned in that house, she didn't dare report it, only weeping repeatedly to her friends online. As for this account, the police did not release any related information. Whether the resident of D102 was Chen Qian, or whether those girls were eventually rescued remains unknown. This dog cage confinement case reflects the dark, hard to restrain impulses deep within human nature. To satisfy his perverse desires, Chen Qian deceived one woman after another. Despite his refined appearance and human facade, he was a monster at heart. Han Wenwen, driven by greed, resorted to trading her body. Perhaps, as a minor, she didn't understand the dangers of society, thinking a transactional relationship could be cleanly settled. This experience served as a harsh lesson for her. It's hoped that in the future, she can recalibrate her values and find a proper path in life. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this case, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow Case Diaries. There are plenty more cases coming your way. Got thoughts on today's story? Drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. See you in the next one.